A startling discovery. The ethereal glow of holographic star charts bathed the dimly lit lab in a soft blue light. Lara Novak, hunched over her workstation, furrowed her brow as streams of data cascaded across her screens. It was well past midnight, but sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not when the fate of humanity hung in the balance. "Any luck?" a voice called from the doorway. Lara glanced up to see her research partner, Zeph Malik, leaning against the frame, two steaming mugs in hand. "Not unless you count chasing ghosts and dead ends," Lara sighed, gratefully accepting the offered coffee. "I've run every decryption algorithm we have on this signal, but it's like nothing I've ever seen." Zeph settles into the chair beside her, his own gaze drawn to the pulsing waveform dominating the central display. "It's definitely not of Earth origin," he murmured, more to himself than to Lara. "The frequency alone is light-years beyond anything we're capable of." "Exactly." Lara sipped her coffee, wincing as the scalding liquid hit her tongue. "Which means we're dealing with an extraterrestrial intelligence. And if these readings are accurate, they're headed straight for us." Zeph exhaled slowly, the weight of that realization pressing down on them both. "Have you informed the Defense Council?" Lara shook her head. "Not yet. You know how they are. They'll want proof, not conjecture." Her fingers danced across the holographic keys, pulling up a new set of data. "But this energy signature, there's something familiar about it. Almost like..." She froze, eyes widening as the pieces suddenly fell into place. "Of course," she breathed, a mix of excitement and trepidation racing through her veins. "The quantum resonance pattern, the subspace harmonics. It's the same signal we detected during the Erebus incident." Zeph bolted upright, his own face awash in shock. "That's impossible. The Erebus incident was 20 years ago, and half a galaxy away. Impossible or not, the data doesn't lie." Lara enlarged the signal readout, the eerie waveform now dominating the room. "If I'm right, then this isn't just any alien visitor." She turned to Zeph, the gravity of her next words hanging heavy in the air. "This is the same species that nearly annihilated the Erebus colony. And they're coming here next." The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the steady pulse of the alien signal, a countdown to an inevitable confrontation. Lara and Zeph exchanged a look, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. The gathering storm. The Earth Defense Council chamber buzzed with tension as Admiral Jace Vorn surveyed the assembled officers. News of the impending alien arrival had spread like wildfire, igniting a frenzy of activity across the globe. "What do we know about their capabilities?" Jace asked, his gaze settling on Nyla Rain, the Council's expert xenolinguist. "The signal indicates advanced propulsion and energy systems," Nyla replied, her eyes scanning the holographic data hovering above the table. "But without a frame of reference, it's impossible to say how they compare to our own technology." Jace nodded grimly. "And their intentions?" "Unknown, sir. The message is unlike anything we've encountered. It will take time to decipher." "Time we may not have," General Zara Velez interjected. "We must prepare for the worst. If these aliens are hostile, we need to be ready." As the Council descended into a heated debate over defense strategies and first contact protocols, Nyla quietly slipped away. She had work to do. In her private lab, Nyla immersed herself in the alien transmission, poring over every frequency and modulation. There was a pattern here, a logic beneath the unfamiliar syntax. If she could just crack the code. Hours turned into days as Nyla worked tirelessly, fueled by a mixture of fascination and dread. The signal was a puzzle, each decoded phrase revealing tantalizing glimpses into an alien mind. And then, on the fifth day, a breakthrough. Nyla burst into the council chamber, her face flushed with exertion and excitement. "I've done it," she announced breathlessly. "I've translated the message." The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. They call themselves the Xylothian Imperium, Nyla continued, her voice trembling slightly. And they're coming to Earth, to negotiate our surrender. The words hung in the air like a death knell. Jace was the first to break the silence. Surrender? On what grounds? Nyla shook her head. The message is unclear. They speak of a transgression, a violation of galactic law. But the specifics are obscured by cultural context we don't yet understand. General Valles slammed her fist on the table. It doesn't matter. We do not bow to the demands of an alien empire. Earth stands alone. Jace held up a hand, his expression pensive. We can't afford to be hasty. If there's even a chance of a peaceful resolution, we must pursue it. He turned to Nyla. Keep working on that translation. We need every scrap of insight you can glean. As the council erupted into a fresh round of argument, Jace caught Nyla's eye. You've done well, he said quietly. But I fear your work has only just begun. Nyla nodded, the weight of responsibility settling heavily on her shoulders. The fate of humanity rested on her ability to unravel the alien message. And time was running out. Far above the Earth, a sleek, silver ship slipped out of hyperspace, its alien contours gleaming in the starlight. On the bridge, Commander Xyloth stood tall, his crystalline eyes fixed on the blue planet below. The time has come, he intoned, his voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. The children of Earth must answer for their crimes. A ripple of anticipation passed through the crew, a mix of eagerness and trepidation. They had traveled far, sacrificed much, to reach this moment. Xyloth turned to his second-in-command, a lithe, serpentine creature named Lazara. Prepare a landing party. We will meet these humans face to face. Lazara bowed, her scales shimmering in the soft light. As you command. As the ship descended towards the planet's surface, Xyloth allowed himself a small smile. The primitive species below had no idea what awaited them. First contact. Tension crackled through the control room as Captain Kai Terrell stared at the viewscreen, his knuckles white against the armrests of his chair. The alien ship loomed before them, a gleaming behemoth that dwarfed the modest Earth vessel. Hailing frequencies open, Lieutenant Mira Patel reported, her fingers dancing across the communications panel. No response yet, Captain. Kai leaned forward, his jaw set. Keep trying. We can't afford a misunderstanding here. The minutes ticked by, each second an eternity as they waited for a sign, any indication that their entreaties had been heard. And then, just as the tension reached a breaking point, the screen flickered to life. Commander Xyloth's angular face filled the viewscreen, his crystalline eyes boring into Kai's with an intensity that sent shivers down the human spine. Captain Terrell, the alien intoned, his voice a discordant melody. You have been chosen to bear witness to the judgment of your species. Kai fought to keep his expression neutral, even as a knot of dread settled in his stomach. Commander Xyloth, we come in peace, seeking to understand the nature of your grievance with Earth. Xyloth tilted his head, a gesture that might have been curiosity or disdain. Your ignorance is no defense, Captain. The crimes of humanity echo across the stars, a stain upon the cosmic balance. With respect, Commander, Kai pressed on, we cannot atone for transgressions we do not comprehend. Grant us the opportunity to make amends, to forge a path of understanding between our peoples. A flicker of something inscrutable passed across Xyloth's face, gone as quickly as it appeared. You speak of understanding, yet your species has shown no capacity for wisdom. The judgment stands. Earth will submit, or face annihilation. With that, the screen went dark, plunging the control room into a stunned silence. Kai slumped back in his chair, his mind racing. They were on the brink of war, and he had no idea how to stop it. On the alien ship, Xyloth turned away from the communication array, his expression unreadable. Lazara, ever present at his side, studied him with unblinking eyes. "They are primitive," she remarked, her tone laced with contempt. "Unworthy of the mercy you offer." Xyloth was silent for a long moment, his gaze distant. "Perhaps," he said at last, his voice low. "But there is potential there. A spark of something greater." Lazara's scales rippled in agitation. "The council will not approve. They expect obedience, not philosophical musings." "The council," Xyloth said with a hint of bitterness, "sees only the narrow path of tradition. But there are other ways, Lazara. Ways that could lead to a future brighter than any our kind has dared to dream." He turned to face her, his eyes glinting with a fierce determination. "Summon the human delegation. It is time we met face to face, and saw the true measure of these earthlings." Back on Earth, Nyla rain poured over the alien transmission, her brow furrowed in concentration. The message was maddeningly cryptic, each decoded phrase leading to new questions rather than answers. Beside her, Zeph Malik worked in silence, his own focus unwavering. They made an odd pair, the linguist and the astrophysicist, but their combined expertise might just be the key to unraveling the Xylothian mystery. "There's something here," Nyla murmured, her finger tracing a line of alien text. A reference to an ancient treaty, a pact between worlds. But the details are fragmented, lost to time. Zeph leaned in, his eyes widening as he caught the implications. A treaty, with other species? But that would mean that we're not alone, Nyla finished, a note of wonder in her voice. And that this conflict with the Xylothians is part of something much, much bigger than we ever imagined. The weight of that realization hung heavy in the air, a portent of the challenges to come. For Nyla and Zeph, for Kai and his crew, for all of Earth, the journey was only just beginning. The negotiation. The alien ship's conference chamber was a cavernous space, its walls pulsing with an eerie bioluminescence. Nyla Rain and Zeph Malik stood side by side, their hearts pounding as they faced the imposing figure of Commander Xyloth across the gleaming table. Behind them, Captain Kai Terrell and his security detail watched warily, hands hovering near their weapons. The tension in the room was palpable, a coiled spring waiting to snap. "You have come seeking understanding," Xyloth began, his crystalline eyes fixed on Nyla. "A noble sentiment, but one that may be too little, too late." Nyla met his gaze unflinchingly. "It's never too late for understanding, Commander. Our people stand on the brink of war, a war that could be avoided if we simply talk to one another." Xyloth's lipless mouth twitched in what might have been amusement. "You presume much, human. The crimes of your species are not so easily forgiven." "Then tell us," Zeph interjected, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut. "What are these crimes you speak of? How have we wronged the Xylothian Imperium?" The alien leader leaned forward, his taloned fingers steepled before him. "The Treaty of Kaiser," he said, as if the name alone should be explanation enough. "A sacred pact, signed in the dawn of our civilization, violated by the reckless actions of humanity." Nyla frowned, her mind racing. The treaty from the fragmented transmissions, could this be the key to the Xylothians' grievance? An unexpected ally. Lara Novak stared at the alien transmission, her heart racing as the pieces fell into place. The signal they had intercepted, the one that had brought the Xylothians to Earth's doorstep, it wasn't a declaration of war. It was a call for help. Hidden beneath layers of encryption, she had found a message, a desperate plea from a faction within the Xylothian Imperium. A faction that sought to overthrow the rigid dictates of the Treaty of Kaiser and forge a new path of cooperation and discovery. And the leader of that faction was none other than Commander Xyloth himself. Lara's mind reeled with the implications. All this time, they had thought Xyloth an enemy, a conqueror bent on humanity's subjugation. But in reality, he was an ally, a visionary seeking to bridge the gap between their species. She had to warn them. Had to let Nyla and the others know before it was too late. Rushing from her lab, Lara raced through the corridors of the Earth Defense Council, her heart pounding in her ears. She burst into the command center, startling the officers gathered around the main view screen. "Captain Terrell," she cried, her voice trembling with urgency. "You have to abort the mission. The Xylothians, they're not what we think." On the screen, the alien conference chamber flickered into view, the scene frozen in a moment of tense negotiation. Nyla and Zeph stood before Commander Xyloth, their faces etched with a mix of hope and trepidation. Admiral Jace Vorn turned to Lara, his brow furrowed in confusion. "What are you talking about, Dr. Novak? The Xylothians have made their intentions clear. We must prepare for the worst." "No." Lara shook her head vehemently. "It's all been a misunderstanding. Xyloth, he's not here to conquer us. He's here to help us." She thrust a data pad into the Admiral's hands, the decrypted message displayed on its glowing screen. "Look, he's part of a rebel faction, one that wants to end the Treaty of Kaiser's tyranny. They see humanity as a potential ally, a partner in a new era of exploration and growth." Jace's eyes widened as he scanned the message, realization dawning on his weathered face. "My God, if this is true." "It is," Lara insisted. "And we have to act now, before the hardliners in the Imperium find out. They'll stop at nothing to maintain the status quo, even if it means destroying us all." On the view screen, the scene suddenly burst into motion. Xyloth was speaking, his crystalline eyes fixed on Nyla with an intensity that seemed to transcend the light years between them. "A choice," he was saying, his voice distorted by the transmission. "To cling to the past, or to reach for a future of infinite possibility. A future where our people stand together, as allies and equals." Nyla's eyes shone with a fierce hope, her voice ringing with conviction. "We choose the future, Commander. Today, and always." And then, in a gesture that sent shockwaves through the command center, the alien leader slowly sank to one knee, his head bowed in a sign of respect and solidarity. A gasp rippled through the gathered officers, a mix of awe and disbelief. For a long moment, no one spoke, the weight of the moment hanging heavy in the air. And then Admiral Vorn turned to Lara, his voice rough with emotion. "Dr. Novak, it seems we owe you a great debt. You may have just saved us from a terrible mistake." Lara shook her head, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Not just me, Admiral. Nyla, Zeph, Captain Terrell, they're the real heroes. They took a chance, reached out across the stars to find common ground." She looked up at the view screen, where Xyloth and the human delegation were now clasping hands, a new understanding forged between them. "And that," she said softly, "is the greatest gift of all. The courage to see beyond our differences, to find the humanity in the alien, and the alien in ourselves." As the transmission ended, the command center erupted into a chorus of cheers and applause, a celebration of a crisis averted and a new era begun. But for Lara, the true victory lay in the quiet knowledge that, for the first time in history, humanity stood on the brink of something greater than itself. A frontier without limits, a destiny without bounds. And a future as vast and wondrous as the stars themselves.